What is going on, you guys? So today I want to do another quick video review. This is by a YouTuber named How To Beast. Really great channel. Actually worked with David, that's his real name, for a while, and he's got a lot of great content around self-improvement, masculinity, leveling up, all the areas that are pretty important in terms of like your mindset, fitness, finances, your career, like how really designing what you're doing with your life, how to level up as a man, dating, relationships, all this good stuff. So this video is called How to Be Silently Attractive, 12 Introvert Cheat Codes. So let's just go ahead and dive right in here.
Quiet. Do you hear that? Nah, never mind, it was nothing. I've always been a quieter person. Like when I'm in social settings, I just usually don't have that much that I want to say. For most of my life, I thought that it was this big weakness of mine that was holding me back, holding me back from putting myself out there with women, holding me back from getting respect with other men, just holding me back from success in general. Like the quiet guy doesn't win. He never gets the girl. He's the loser, right? But that is not fully true because us quieter people tend to have an advantage over the louder people. Our mouths are shut and that gives us more attention and focus on analyzing situations, thinking more, perceiving different things. And that is why I believe the deadliest, most effective men in this world are quiet guys who've simply learned to present themselves in a confident, attractive way. And that, my friends, is the trick. You must learn how to present yourself in an attractive way that does not require you to constantly be talking and say a lot of words, because let's be real, that doesn't come naturally to us. Number one, change the goal. So y'all know I love to snowboard, and back in...
I just want to say something about that for a second because I totally resonate with that, and definitely guys watching this that would also connect with that. Like I was always like, I felt like a little bit uncomfortable in the past when I was growing up, like I thought it was like maybe a bad thing that I was more quiet, or bad thing that I was like listening a bit more and just perceiving a bit more like during the social interaction, like listening and actually taking everything in. And I felt like some people will be like, oh, like why aren't you talking as much, or why aren't you talking more? And it's really just like the way that some people are, right? Like myself, and I talked about this in that last video with Jack Denmo. I don't believe it's a good idea to box yourself in to introvert or extrovert, right? I think we're on a scale, and it's not going to help you to like limit yourself or box yourself in. Just know that you can still be confident regardless of which side that you're on. Introvert is different than being shy, and either way, you can be confident no matter what. And in different situations, you can level up all of these. So it doesn't even matter what label you want to use, where you are on the scale. And I just wanted to add that into the video right before we get a little bit deeper here.
University, I actually joined the snowboarding team, which was also kind of like this club that had parties and hung out all the time together. And every time there'd be an event I was about to go to, I would tell myself, okay, the goal tonight is to be cool, to make friends with everyone, to make sure everyone thinks I'm cool. Because if I do that, then I'll have a chance with hooking up with the cuter girls in the club, and that'll be good. I can't go there and be like a simp. I gotta be cool. And what do you think happened? How do you think that went for me? It went terribly, bro, because I showed up and I was stuck in my head with all this pressure on myself, like, okay, I gotta find my opportunity to say the right thing. Okay, I'm ready. And then I sat there awkwardly in the corner, isolated, like a loser. You have to change the goal. You have to take the pressure off of yourself. Now, when I'm about to go to a situation like this, I'll tell myself the goal is just to show up, and hopefully, I can have a couple good conversations with some of the people there. If some people there happen to think I'm a loser, I'm awkward, I'm okay with that. I'm gonna accept that ahead of time. But, maybe if I do the right things, the things we're about to talk about in this video, maybe they'll just think I'm that silently attractive guy. Number two, call them out. So
by the way, something good to add to that would be that you're getting out of your comfort zone, right? Because you could stay in your comfort zone forever and stay inside and not socialize, and you can actually break through some of your social anxiety if you actually get out of your comfort zone. And like he said, like just commit to going for at least a little while. Like you could say like I'll just go for 30 minutes or an hour, right? And just give yourself like an out, basically. Like I'm gonna go, but only for this long. And oftentimes you realize once you did go that you are really glad that you went, even if it pushed you out of your comfort zone a little bit.
few weeks ago, Julia, my wife, and I, we met up with another couple. We went out on the boats, and Julia knew the girl. I didn't know either of them. And at one point, the other girl was telling Julia, yeah, so there's this thing you can do when you're trying to get pregnant, that if you guys have intercourse on the third day of your ovulation, then that will basically guarantee that it's a boy. My sister did it, and her friend did it too, and they both have boys. And Julia's like, wow, that's so interesting. And even the other guy's like, damn, really? That's kind of crazy. And it's one of those moments where in my head, I'm sitting there like, this is the biggest, like, bullshit bro science assumption ever. But normally, us quiet people, we just kind of keep that thought to ourselves, label it, and move on. Look, bro, if you're not going to say a lot of things, the things you say need to be impactful things. And this is the perfect opportunity to show that you have balls. You actually had a kind of unique thought that went against the grain, and you got to express that to the group. So I'm kind of laying back on the boat. I turn my head and say, y'all are crazy. You got a sample size of 2 girls that have done this. It's a 50-50 chance, and all of y'all are convinced? Y'all are crazy. And of course, everyone laughed. The key is to do this in a playful way, to playfully challenge other people when you call them out. You know, we lightly debated it for a little bit. The point wasn't to prove them wrong. The point is that when you're quiet, you got to make sure that the words that you speak, because there's going to be fewer of them, they have to be impactful. So if you see an opportunity to playfully call someone out, you got to take that opportunity every time. Number 3, choose your...
And that's another good point there. Like, it's all about like being playful and your tone. Because if you're a little bit too like I don't know, like overbearing when you do it, you know, you're just gonna sound like you're mad. Like that's BS, bro. Like there's no way that's true. Rather than being more like playful and flirty, it's the same thing. Like, you know, interacting with new people, like coming off more fun and playful when you have like a disagreement. Like there's nothing wrong with you having a disagreement, and you can have a fun conversation based off that. I mean, it's even the same way when you're like flirting with a girl, right? Like the sort of like push pull, or like the teasing them a little bit. You know, there's a way where you can tease them and they don't like it, right? Like it's gonna make them feel bad, and it's all based on how you project it, your tone, how you come across. Because there's a way to do it that is gonna come off the wrong way, and then there's a way to do it where they're gonna be like, oh, this guy's like really fun, and he's providing like a little bit of like back and forth, like some banter, right? Because there's nothing wrong with disagreeing, and that way you can have like a healthy discourse, or like a good conversation based off that too.
Frame. So you know that feeling when you're with a group of people and you can't think of anything to say, and then in your mind you start to label it as, damn, these people probably think I'm a loser. I can't think of anything to say. I wish I could think of something to say. And then you kind of really feel like separated and isolated from the group. You have to catch yourself in this moment and reframe it in your head. In these moments, I'll label it in my head differently. I'll just say, I'm choosing to be quiet and calm, and when I have something to say, I'll say it then. Literally, tell yourself, I'm being the silently attractive guy now. I'm not being the weird loser. It's a simple thing, but it changes how you perceive the entire interaction and will allow you to keep high confidence levels even when you're not talking. You get to choose the story you tell yourself. You might as well choose the story that is empowering to you. Number 4, observe the unique.
Quick comment on that. That's just a good positive reframe, and you can do that with just about anything, right? Like if you're like doubting yourself or have some like negative or limiting belief about something, there's always a positive reframe that you can do, and that's a really great one.
So a couple weeks ago, Julia and I were in Boston, walking down Newbury Street at the end of the night, and we got ice cream at this little ice cream shop. And the girl who's working there scooping the ice cream tells us, and this caught me off guard, she says, you two look like you met on a reality TV show and you're still together 20 years later. It was like the most unique, I'm not even sure if it was a compliment, it was the most kind of unique observation. And it fucking stuck with me. That girl didn't say another word to us the whole night, but immediately she just seemed, I don't know, I liked her because she observed something very unique and personal to me. So I try and do the same thing. Like last week, I met a new guy who had a full sleeve tattoo, you know, kind of like mine. So I observed it and I said, oh man, it's interesting that you have so many tattoos, but you haven't connected them together with shading. I made an observation that was unique to him. And then he opened up and we had a deep, engaging conversation after that. When you meet new people, always just be observing. And when you think of something that's unique about them, just tell them. Even if it's not a question, even if it's not a compliment, just tell them. And that's going to make this extremely strong impact on them. Number 5, always take the aggressive option. So oftentimes in social scenarios, we come to a branch in the road where there's 2 routes we can take. And usually one of them is a bit more passive or playing it safe, and the other one is a bit more assertive, but it requires a bit more of a risk to be taken. You see a cute girl at the gym, you can either keep doing your workout and do nothing, or you can try and approach her and talk to her. If you're talking to a girl you like, you can either just let the conversation go where it goes, or you can make sure to ask her if she wants to hang out. When you're on a date with the girl you like, you can either just tell her bye at the end of the night and say you had a nice time, or you could invite her back to your place. So let's imagine you saw that cute girl at the gym and you didn't approach. How do you feel a couple hours later? Are you happy with yourself? Or maybe do you feel a little bit of regret? If you're talking to a really cute girl and you don't ask her out, what does that feel like a few hours later? Good are really shitty, like really fucking shitty, wishing that I could rewind time and go back there and just take the shot. At one point, I realized the cheat code to life was just to always take the assertive option. I would rather take the assertive option and do it in a really cringy, insecure way, but still try and ask the girl out, for example, than not to do it and regret it later. I have literally never once in my life regretted taking the assertive option. Because worst case, it still builds confidence and builds this positive feedback cycle where you're more likely now to take the next risk and take the next opportunity. Because think about it, if not, really what you're doing is you're building the habit of always playing it safe. And that is what leads you to being the quiet, kind of loser, awkward, cringy guy with no hoes at all. Zero hoes. Now, real quick, let's keep it real.
By the way, that's like a really good point that we can bring into any other area of your life. So right now, or when you're done watching this video, you can actually think about like other ways that translates. Like when are you always choosing the safe option and not the risky option, or the one that feels riskier to you, right? Because there's such a thing as like calculated risks too. Like, so you don't necessarily like overthink it. Like it's just a kind of like pushing your boundary or your comfort zone. And sometimes that's like what he said, like you're just like a lot more shy of a guy, or like it's difficult for you with women, but that applies to so many other areas. So even now or after this video, you can think about like, where else does this apply in my life? Does this apply in my job or the business that I'm building, or where I'm living right now, or all these different areas? You can think like, is there like something that I always, because too, there's like a gut feeling or a thing in the back of your head. You're like, oh, I could do this right now. And a lot of times it's like the option that you want to do, right? It's like, I really want to do this right now, but I'm worried about what they're going to think or how they're going to react to this. So start just being more conscious of that. And then actually, like, the only way that you're really going to get out of your comfort zone, especially if that could yield a positive result for you, is by challenging that and starting to slightly tilt and start getting into the riskier option, right? And if it's not like something you're used to, again, right, like just start implementing it so you can make that progress.
Keep it real for a real quick second. If you're the type of guy that doesn't speak as many words, then it is absolutely fucking critical that you present yourself visually in the most attractive way possible. And unfortunately, style is not something that comes naturally to men. In 2024, most guys I see have like a 4 or a 5 out of 10 style. And this is exactly why back in 2018, I created Edge Lifestyle Clothing to provide men with staple pieces of clothing that are insanely comfortable and help you portray that masculine edge. And
normally I would skip over one of those ads, but David's a cool guy, and I like some of the clothes that he has there. So to each their own with style too. I just want to actually make a quick comment on that, right? So like for you, if that actually relates to what we were just talking about, right? Because a lot of guys, they have things that they want to try, especially when they haven't started to get out of their comfort zone with style. Like there's like things where they're like, oh, that thing looks good on that guy. Like the way he's groomed himself, like that beard, that hairstyle, that shirt, those shoes, those glasses, like there's something, and it's interesting, right? Because you could take the safe option, which is what you've always done or what you feel safer in, or the risky option, which is getting out of your comfort zone, and it's really not risky, which is funny. It's like a good reframe for that. Is you're literally just trying like a new style, like, oh, I like that shirt that person has, I'm gonna give it a shot, or I'm gonna implement some things from their style. And that's another good point to this, is like, you don't have to completely copy someone's style. It's kind of like being like a musician or an artist too, right? It's like you take things from people's style that you like, and it becomes a combination, like a cocktail basically, and it turns into your own style. And of course, it might look like a little bit like something someone else has, but like you've been more intentional about your outfit. Like you've chosen these things that you're like, oh, that looks cool, I want to try that. And that's a good part about like getting out of your comfort zone. Like he was just saying, like, always play it safe or grow a little bit and basically become who you want to be.
Manners. So my mother is from North Carolina, the dirty South, and she raised me always to say, thank you, you're welcome, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, please, all the basic shit that all of us know. And when I was younger, I kind of wanted to be rebellious and not do that. I thought it would be cooler to be a bit like rude to people. But what I've realized is that when you meet someone who has good manners, it's such a small thing, but immediately in my mind, it makes me look at them as a higher value person. Like they just seem like more of a premium person. I look at them more highly than someone who doesn't have good manners. And more than anything, I think that like attracts like. So if you're someone who goes around using good manners, you're a lot more likely to attract other of those higher value people into your life with you. Again, when you don't speak a lot, the few words that you speak tell the story of who you are. You want to make sure you're telling the right story. Number 7, highlight the differences. So I think all of us naturally have this habit that when we're speaking to someone, we're always subconsciously looking for the threads of things that we have in common. Like, oh my God, you used to play Oblivion growing up too? Man, that was the game. What about GoldenEye 007 and Mario 64? You play those too? Because then we can connect on those things and it feels good to make that connection with someone else. Now, I'm not saying not to do that, but what I am saying is if you actually focus on highlighting the differences between you and the person you're talking to, it leaves a much deeper impact and paints you as a much more attractive, confident person. So for example, when I'm back in Boston and realize that I grew up in Boston, so when I'm there and I meet new people, they tend to ask me, oh, do you miss Boston? Yeah, it's such a great city. You must miss it. And rather than being like, yeah, there's really things I like about Boston, I do kind of miss it, I highlight the differences and I say, honestly, I don't miss Boston at all. I think you're crazy for still living in the city, man. It's cold as hell in the winter here. Keep in mind, I'm doing this in a playful way. I'm not trying to create bad blood in the interaction. But how do you think people respond when I do this? Well, there's an interesting thing that when someone pushes you away, you tend to want to pull your way back in. So it's almost like I created a little bit of distance between us, and now they're trying to like reprove, no, actually, we can still get along, and we're still good. Like, yeah, you're right, it is a bit cold in the winter here. Maybe I should come out and check Texas out. It's probably cool down there. And these things are so crucial to do when you're naturally quiet because people immediately recognize you as, oh, he doesn't fuck around. He's not afraid to call me out and say something. And that is an extremely attractive habit. People like the guy who has balls. People want to be like the guy who has balls. And the beauty is you barely have to say anything at all to demonstrate that. Number 8, remember things. Don't be like Joe Biden. You got to remember things. So 2 days ago, I'm getting my barber, freshly lining up the haircut, and he's talking about, some guy that he was talking to, and he's like, but I told him he's got to go to the Boa restaurant downtown. And that's a restaurant I really like in Austin. And I was like, wait, but you know about Boa? He's like, yeah, bro, you told me about Boa last month. Even I didn't remember that. But the fact that the barber remembered something, so unique about me immediately, it just made me like him more. It made me feel like, damn, this guy really knows me and he really cares about me. He's a cool dude. And that's something I try and always do is call back things that I've talked about with someone before because those are kind of like inside jokes you and the person have, even though they haven't been established as inside jokes. But when you bring it up, now it's like, hey, me and you are in on this together, even if we don't know each other that much. Or even just thinking right now, there's a guy I know, I don't really know him, but a guy at the gym who I know plays with a local band and does concerts from time to time. So next time I see him, I'm gonna be like, hey bro, how's it going? What's up? You've been crushing any concerts lately? And I know his face is gonna light up. He's gonna be like, this guy remembers. Number 9, text less. Never.
That's also a good point, right? I know I keep saying that, but like people like it when you listen, right? Like you actually heard them. And, it's cool because, it creates that extra level of connection. Like they feel a little more like deeply connected to you, and like, oh, this guy, like you said, right, like this guy actually remembers like what I was saying. He was present, listening to me. Or even on dates, like girls really like that. Both sides, like, I mean, you as a guy would really like that if a girl remembered something about what you said, and it is being more present, being more connected. Like, oh man, like they actually listened, and yeah, I mean that's a great thing to start implementing, and it's actually really. If you're able to not overthink, because I know a lot of introverts are like, or shy people are more like overthinkers. If you can just like calm the thoughts, right? Just like focus on what they're saying, like truly listening. Again, right? Like it'll help you be present, actually soak up what they're saying. And again, like it's like, oh, this person actually cares, which is a great feeling, no matter who it is.
More. This is maybe the most powerful dating hack in 2024 when most of the communication before the first date happens over text message. And by far the number one mistake guys like us make, guys who are naturally quieter when there's actual conversation, is we maybe overcompensate a little bit subconsciously and send more text because it's almost easier to think of something to say and send it over a text message. Bro, it doesn't work. It never works. It literally never works. You see, with texting, it's a lot more about how you text than what you text. And if you're talking to a girl and you're sending less messages, the communication that's actually happening to her is, oh, I'm not sure if he's interested in me. He seems like he's a busier guy. And that is a human psychological factor that she can't even control. She can't even help herself but want to get to know you better and more because you're holding yourself back on the text messages. Versus if you send a lot of texts or you send longer text messages, it doesn't matter how smooth they are, bro. The communication that she's receiving from all this is that this guy's really, really into me and he's got a lot of free time. And those are not things that are attractive. So basically, be more silent with your text messaging. It's gonna help you out a lot. Like the faster you can ask her, hey, do you wanna hang out sometime this week? And then when she says yes, you just say, cool, what does your week look like? And then she tells you she's free Wednesday or Thursday, then you just suggest, awesome, let's meet Wednesday night at this restaurant at 8 p.m. I'll see you there. As soon as you start doing that, bro, I promise you, your conversion rate from numbers to dates is gonna go through the fucking roof. Number 10, draw the line.
There's two things that I want to say there. One, I actually remembered something about earlier, like the taking the risk, like the safer option or the risk. I cannot count how many times I've heard guys, and I've done it myself in the past too, where I've heard guys say about, like, let's say approaching the girl, like that option. They come up with some massive coping mechanism. Maybe not massive, but they always like let their ego in the way and sort of get defensive. Like, oh no, man, like she was busy, or like, oh man, I was busy, but like she can tell you if she's busy, or if someone talks to you when you're busy, you can tell them, right? Like we people seem to forget that. And then on top of that, right? Like if she's not interested, cool, all good. And also, I mean, you're only gonna know, like, unless you go up and try to talk to her. And I want to flip your frame on that a little bit too. Like I know it's not common for guys, but let's just say that a girl that was like really cute and she seemed cool, like she started up a conversation with you and you had a cool, like a good brief conversation, and you might want to get to know her more. Like you're not going to be mad, right, that she, like, you know, it took like 5 minutes or so, or just, you know, maybe a minute or two, really like less than that, to just express some interest in you, have a good conversation, and maybe you're able to actually like meet again, right? Or like set up a date later, something like that. So there's that. And also it's funny because with what he was talking about with the texting thing, it applies with the coping mechanism part. It's funny because guys will be like, oh, like I gotta text her more first before I set something up. And really, women like it a lot more when you show intent, right? Like, so like basically what he's suggesting is, like, within the first few messages, do it in a way where you don't have to write novels back and forth, and you're not spending days and weeks, you know, getting to know each other first. Like most girls really appreciate that you value your time and theirs. And literally what he's saying is, if you do it effectively in the right way, you can set up a date within the first few messages, and she's going to be open to it, or she's going to be like, wow, really? Like that was fast. But then she'll be open to it still, probably. And she'll tell you if she's not, and you can go from there. All good either way. And the other thing about, like, you know, texting too much, you know, it shows, like, he was saying something earlier about, like, the silent confidence. I mean, you always know, like, when a guy or somebody, like, talks too much. I mean, it might not be that they're not confident, but we have two, you know, you've probably heard this before, like, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. It's always better to listen more, and that way you can really, like, contribute to a conversation and learn more, like be more present, like we were talking about. And sometimes there are examples, it's not always the case, but there are examples of people who talk too much, and either it's because they're circling around an issue or, like, the thing they want to say, because maybe they're worried about how it's going to come across rather than being direct, right? Or maybe there's something that they're insecure about, right? Like it's kind of like saying, like, the person who talks the most, or the person who has to, like, be the flashiest or be the loudest, like, maybe they feel like they have something to prove, right? So just something to keep in mind. I know this isn't always the case, but just something to be aware of.
So don't get me wrong, there's times in life where being persistent can help you out. For example, when I identified the gym that I wanted to work at, this luxury gym in Boston, I wanted to be a personal trainer there. I dropped my resume off in person. I called them on the phone. I sent multiple emails. I came back by in person to talk to the manager myself. And ultimately, that's what got my foot in the door. Or if I have a working relationship with someone, let's say someone who's doing some advertising work for me, or a lawyer, and I'm still waiting to hear back from them, I'm going to hit them up and be like, hey, I'm following up on last week. You still haven't gotten back to me. And I'm following up again. But when it comes to meeting new people, you don't want to be persistent. Because unfortunately, persistence just makes you look needy and needy repels people, girls and other guys. So my rule of thumb is this now. When I meet someone new that seems like a cool person that I'd want to hang out with again, I'm going to make one genuine effort to hang out with them. Because let's be real, if you meet a girl, she ain't going to be the one that sets up the date. And even if you meet another guy who could be a business partner or could just be a cool guy to hang out with, he's probably not going to make the effort either. People are lazy. But if I make that effort, I send them the text messages trying to set up the first meeting and they don't reciprocate, so they're not available, and they don't make an effort to set up a meeting after that, I'm done. I'm out. Not only does this prevent you from wasting time on someone that doesn't want to equally invest into the relationship with you, but it's also very attractive, especially in dating. I can't tell you how many girls I tried to hang out with once, and they gave me the usual flaky shit, and then I just texted them, okay, cool. When you're free, let me know. You wouldn't think that this would work. You'd be like, no, I should probably check in with her again next week because she's not going to get back to me. But when you just give some fucking space and show that I don't chase, I've drawn the line, I'm out, a shocking amount of girls will get back to you and be down to hang out. Number 11, take up space physically. So I have a challenge for you.
Just a quick comment on that too. It's not just the girls thing, right? It's like you said, with other guys or new friends, things like that. Family, business, right? I mean, like giving, let's say a business deal or a sale some space too, right? It's the same thing there, right? Sometimes they'll actually come back because, you were willing to be like, okay, let me know, feel free to get back to me, that sort of thing, right? Basically what he said, right? Okay, let me know, and then you leave it alone, right? Because sometimes, I know, especially with sales, right? It's it's the I need to think about it thing is their worst nightmare, right? But it's actually really helpful to be able to walk away. I mean, even if you have something you're buying or selling, right? No matter what end you're on, being able to walk away or give it some space, gives a lot of confidence. People can see the level of confidence that you have in, let's say, what you're offering, the service you provide or your product, or maybe you don't feel the need to buy, right? Because of that, you're just well, yeah, I mean, let's just give it some space. And it's funny how you become a magnet for better opportunities because of that.
That is that next time you're in a social situation, which will probably be today or tomorrow, I want you to focus only on putting your body in a way that takes up space physically. So if you're sitting down, sat back in a chair like this, your arms wide, your legs a bit open, because what you'll notice, well, first of all, when we're nervous and we're a bit anxious, we tend to close our body into a more protective fetal stance. Maybe not like this. You're probably a bit tighter and closed in the chest. Your legs might be, crossed more like this. And not only does that allow this more tight body posture to happen, which is going to make you feel even more tight, and your heart rate will probably raise and your blood pressure will go up, but also other people will perceive you as a weaker, less confident man if you're taking up less space, versus when you open up, other people, again, without even thinking about it, they're going to perceive you as, oh, he's very, calm and comfortable in this environment. Back when I was really starting to confront my social anxiety, I would focus exclusively on this when I was speaking with my boss or with the women or just meeting new people. And it was kind of that one core habit that I could always have faith that if I just did that right, I would look quietly attractive. I'd have that silent attractiveness. And number 12, start.
And I mean, even with that, right? You don't have to be the guy who's spreading out super far, taking up way too much room. But that is super helpful for you because, I mean, you always notice when someone's a little bit they're closed off in some way, they're looking down, right? And something that actually helped me is to just think about that a bit more, making a warm impression, keeping the head up, right? And having a bit more open posture. But also, funny enough, thinking about it from a video game point of view, or if there was a drone camera above you, this what you look like walking around during your day, right? So walking around, what do you look like? Is it you're walking and you're always walking really fast? That gives sort of the impression, sure, maybe you're on a mission, right? But it sort of gives the impression that you're in a rush or a little bit anxious, right? What's the reason for that, right? Because people see a lot more confidence in slower movements. Even, I have a habit of talking fast. So when you start to talk slower, that's also really helpful for you. And if you think about it from that drone point of view, it's the walking fast, your posture, are you always walking and looking down? Do you look nervous, right? Or do you look confident? Do you have a bit of like, I know it's kind of like a cliche or a funny thing to say, but like, you have a bit of like swagger and confidence to you while you're moving around. Like sort of like an unshakable situation, because obviously like people are going to perceive you that way too, and of course afterwards you get to know they get to know you, you get to know them, and if that's actually the case. But it's just a good thing to keep in mind because it actually helps you mentally. Like you like you said, like you don't become so tense. Like you can feel it when you're like closed off or like sitting in a weird way, right? Versus like just more open body language.
Strong. So look, there's plenty of studies, and I mean plenty of studies out there that show within milliseconds of someone seeing you, they've already made up their mind in terms of how attractive you are, how likable you are, how aggressive you are. And they've also done studies that show these first impressions are extremely sticky, meaning that let's say you make a really bad first impression on someone and they think you're kind of a loser. Even if you show yourself to be a really strong, confident guy later on, it's going to be hard for them to change their mind about you. But let's be real. I'm sure you don't need studies to prove this to you. I'm sure you can just look at your own life, look at the last 2 days in your life, and see that this is true. For example, if this is the first video of mine that you've seen, probably as soon as I came on camera, you already kind of made up your minds that, oh, this guy seems like a little douchey. I don't know if I really want to take advice from him. Or maybe you were like, this guy seems like relatable and chill. Like, I'm excited to see the video. Hopefully the second one. Hopefully the second one. Now, this is extremely good news for naturally quiet people like us, because this means that if we can just make a strong effort in the first few seconds we're talking to someone, they can already establish us as an attractive person in their minds, even if we go back to our quiet, slightly awkward ways after that. And that's why every single time I meet someone new, I make sure to do 3 things. First of all, strong eye contact as I'm approaching them and talking with them for the first 10 to 20 seconds. Second, I'll try and have a slight smile on my face. Not a big, cheesy, awkward smile, but at least a little grin. They've done studies that show this has a powerful impact on first impression because it shows that you're, happy and content with the people around you, and they tend to mirror that back. And third, if it's a man, I'm going to give the good old firm handshake. Firm, not trying to break the knuckles. That's weird. And if it's a girl, or at least a girl in a social environment, not a professional environment, I'm going to go in for a warm hug. And it's important to, if it's a guy or a girl and it's a handshake, to hold the handshake a little bit longer to establish that physical connection with them. And if it's a hug, the same thing. It's a warm hug, held for 2-3 seconds. Boom. Because now, after I've done that, I know that I can be a bit lazy and go back to old quiet David, and I've already, secured the attractive first impression. It takes so much fucking pressure off of you, knowing that that's already locked in. Now look, if you're serious about taking every aspect of your life to the next level, then you need to watch that video next. That is about the 15 laws of self-improvement. And that's basically the top 15 lessons I've learned transforming my life over the last 10 years, condensed into one single video. Click there to watch it now. If you're new to the channel, click down there because I release 2 new videos every single.
All right, guys. Well, obviously, some pretty helpful stuff. See, talk a little bit slower. So some pretty helpful stuff there. Obviously, David's a good guy. He's got a great channel. I definitely recommend checking it out. And that last bit was, again, like a pretty good point, and it still played into that first impression part. Like how do you look walking around? And of course, afterwards, you get to know the person after you see how they look, or they get to know you to figure out like more, and because they see you first, right? And he makes a really good point, like it's like sticky, and I mean there's so many ways that could go, right? Like really great impression, maybe a weird impression, or like a bad impression, and sticky meaning like it's a little bit hard to undo sometimes, like you just might not want to see someone again, or you might really want to see someone again, based on that first experience. And it's funny because it's all perception, right? It's all just like how you saw the first interaction, and sometimes it's not really the way it was, right? Like they're not really that kind of person, or maybe they really are that kind of person, and so you actually have to think about that too. But also, like sometimes it's true too, right? Like it's not the best first impression, and you're like, yeah, I mean, maybe I won't want to hang out with that person again, or maybe you really will. But it's important to think about that because there's so many ways that could go: positive, negative, neutral, funny, or like, I mean, it's really interesting, like the nuance you could get to it. Like you could meet like a millionaire or a billionaire, and he's very charismatic, very open body language, this and that. But then he wants to do a business deal with you, and you found out during, let's say, like before you even met him, someone told you, and so you knew this was a fact, right? Not just like what someone told you, but a fact. Or you met him, and somehow you found out that he was like cheating on his wife, right? Like immediately, I don't know about you, but immediately I would just not want to do business with him. I don't care if he's a millionaire, a billionaire, whatever. It's the morals behind it. It's like, well, if he cheats on his wife, then like, am I really going to do business with this guy? Right. So that's just like a really nuanced version of like a first impression, right? But keep in mind, right? That's why this stuff really counts. So, it's sort of a balance between, it's good to care about people, but not care about what they think, and also just make a good impression, right? All right, guys. Well, hope you enjoyed this. Hope this was helpful for you in some way. Enjoy the rest of your day. You got this.